So jumping back to another job we need to do, and that's put some lovely motor oil back in the gearbox, which we lost. The leak has all been fixed in the gearbox. Sealed up that one bolt that's a bit porous and it was leaking through. So I saved the majority of the oil, probably thrown away a litre, and the rest was saved. So I've got a couple of new bottles left of the motor gear oil, the competition stuff. Let's put it in and then we can move back along with the electrics. I had a really good night last night. I've got all the EGTs wired in up to the Bosch Motorsport plug. It's overwhelming at the moment, so we just got to keep pressing on with each job at a time. So let's do the oil. Hopefully it won't leak. We'll find out over the next coming days. Now, what it is time for now, and it's pretty exciting. So exciting! It's time to put oil in the engine. So another change we've had to go through and do with the car, and it's just one of those things change. Something for us was the oil filter setup. Now we were running a Raceworks oil filter relocation block with a HKS Type 7 oil filter, which is essentially, this is what a standard RB engine would run. But a standard RB engine is not what we are running. So I thought that was going to be okay, but I've since been informed, thanks again, Dahtone Racing, that the pressure across that little HKS oil filter was going to be far too much of an oil pressure drop, especially from how much oil flow and pressure that this external Barnes oil pump is producing. The pump is not actually set. It has a spring in it, which is medium pressure, and we need to watch that when we first start the car up. I also have a high pressure and a low pressure spring, and if we can't get the oil pressure right, then we've got to change the gear drive on the actual pump. None of this was told to me when I first did the motor. These are these things we learn. That's the biggest difference with a billet block. It's not a cast block, it's not straightforward. So we know where we're at, but what we have to do is we have to run these WIX Racing Filters. What you'll find though is this thing is the size of a small sumo wrestler. Like, these things are massive. So if we compare this WIX Racing Filter, so if we look at the little WIX one, like there's a massive difference. Look at the size of that thing, it's huge. The issue is though, this WIX Racing Filter unfortunately won't go on our Raceworks filter block. Now, Raceworks have got a new filter relocation block coming, and Jamie from Raceworks has assured me that it will fit this new filter. However, that won't be out in time for us to get to the show. So Anthony again come through with the goods, Dahtone Racing, and Anthony has sent us up one of these. This is the filter relocation block that Dahtone Racing use. It's from Independent Motorsports down in Victoria, Melbourne. I don't know what those sizes actually are, and it doesn't matter, but we've got ourselves a filter block. So I'm going to change this over today, and yeah, it's just at the moment, it's like one step forward, two steps back. So really nice. Wow, that's actually machined down out of a billet block. That's really cool. So light. Where the f am I gonna hide that?
6.5 hours later.
It's time to get super technical, and I actually don't know what I'm doing, but I've been told I'm doing it correctly. Just sorting all the wiring out for the Atessa bits and pieces that we're doing. So what we want to do, I'm just going to jump straight into it, but what Mitch from Zoli Motorsport is trying to do is essentially we're getting the old ABS sensors that are on each wheel, so each wheel speed sensor, we're converting them over to modern day wheel speed sensors instead of ABS sensors. I know this sounds all backwards, but when the wheel spins and a Hall effect sensor, you get a high and a low. So a high frequency and a low frequency, that's like the S, the sine wave that you see. So what we're essentially trying to do here is we're grabbing the low side, which is the wave underneath the center line. We're gonna earth that. Then we're just gonna use the M-Tron is smart enough just to use the high side as the signal wire. So I think I've sorted all that out. I've got the front one sorted. I chopped them when I removed ABS in this thing years ago. So we're gonna have to run new wires to the M-Tron, which is fine, no big deal. And I've worked out which is the low side and which is the high side. We did that today. The rear ones, however, aren't on a GTR. The wheel speed sensors aren't on the rear wheels. They're actually in the diff assembly, right on the end of the sun gears coming out the side. So pretty much inner drive shaft, not the outer drive shaft. And I'm pretty sure those wires coming up through the floor over there, I'm pretty sure they're gonna have our wheel speed sensors for the rear, and they're also gonna have our big thick wire that runs the attessor pump, which we also need. And then we also need a couple of these wires, which will be, I'm not sure if you guys can remember originally or not long ago, but I did the Frenchie's Performance Garage attessor switch upgrade. Well, I need that switch. So I need the two wires off that switch. So I could have grabbed it while I had it all apart, but I didn't know we were going to be doing it like this. So I need to grab those two switch wires, which I'm pretty sure I found. And then there's also a solenoid trigger wire, which I'm pretty sure I've also found. What I need to make sure though is the big thick power wire to run the pump, to pulse switch modulate the pump through the PDM, which should get here this week. Make sure there's no relay in between up here where I'm going to grab it from, down at the pump. So we're going to cut into this wiring loom and have a look. So I think I've found everything I need to. This is the wiring loom that goes down through the floor. This one powers the attessor pump. This one does all pressure switch and solenoid attessor unit, and this does ABS wires. So I need to pin these out for Mitch. He's going to be happy with that. I'll show him these. But in the meantime, look at this. We have got some Cerakote back and I am pumped. Check it out. So thanks to the Cerakote guys down on the Gold Coast for getting these back to us super fast, and I appreciate that you worked over your Easter break to get these done. These things are incredible. This is the first time I've actually had Cerakote done, and I was a bit worried or concerned about the bronze color because that was the only option we had, but I could not be happier, and I really wish I had have undone the exhaust manifold and sent that off to be done as well. The only reason I didn't was because we already had our EGTs set up in it. So it's those little collets for the EGTs are like $52 for a pair, so it's quite an expensive thing. So it's fine. That's the manifold's done in HPC black. These sort of match. You can't see the manifold, but like I'm really happy with this. So these are the wastegate pipes. They've been done as well. What I need to do right now is put the wastegates back together so we can get the turbo back on the car, get the wastegates back on the car. Then I can oil filters here, the oil blocks, relocation blocks here, so we can pump oil pressure through it. I'm going to show you a little trick on how we're going to pump oil pressure through it. And I can tie everything up for the motor in the front end. We need to get wheels on it. I need to give it a workshop wheel alignment, and I'll show you how I do that. So because we've had the front and rear subframes out and all the arms, all the bushes, we're gonna need to give it a pretty good wheel alignment just to get it on the trailer, to get it to a proper wheel alignment place. We've got a deadline now. It's sort of 1 week. So we got 1 week to get this car to a running state. The wiring looms are the biggest thing. The way we're doing it, it's just so much more complicated than just an old GTR. Too far down that rabbit hole to stop now, so we're gonna get stuck into it. I've got some cool content coming, guys. Stay tuned. While we're sort of sitting here talking and working, can we please talk about the guy that keeps commenting on every video? The last comment was on the Hollinger gearbox, and he said, "Who even runs Hollinger these days?"
What? idiot! Oh, what a loser!
I 100%, I will put all my money on it that he's Australian. Fucking
Hate.
hate.
Okay.
I'm an angry little boy.
Okay, I've got to go, mate. Come.
All right, gotta go make these. So now we've got the wastegate essentially back together. This is the diaphragm that does all our controlling of boost pressure, and that's our valve that sort of pops off its seat down there. In fact, it actually has one of these that sits up in there to seal it properly, and then it goes like that. So there's a little bit of pressure there. This is the wastegate springs that everybody is talking about when they're saying wastegate pressure or changing the spring pressure or setting your boost of your turbo and what you want it to make. So there's a general sort of rule of Garrett. I'm not sure how all the other brands work, but it goes off a color, and you can see there how there's a faint brown painted on the spring, and then on the small one there's a faint blue. So I believe these together are 14 PSI. This is very carefully, make sure you sort of protect yourself, because I have seen these things let go before and it's not much fun. But normally your whole weight is more than enough. So don't strain and try and push it together. Just lean on top of it and just let your whole weight. And just lean on it. Let that dad bod take control. Post time, got some freight. So looks like this one here has come from overseas. So I haven't actually ordered anything from overseas, so I don't know what the hell this is. Love a good shirt. What do we got here? Oh, it's from our old mate Gearhead, George. Oh, that is sick. Thanks, George. George has been a part of the channel right from the start. He's built a couple of diffs for the GTR now. We highly recommend George for GTR diffs. The sump extensions George does is second to none, and I've had engineers and other companies in Australia see the diff and the front sump extension that Gearheads do, and they were like pretty impressed with it. So definitely a cool dude, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a GTR. He does diffs of all sorts, but in New Zealand, check him out, support the guys that support you. There we go. Just in time for MotorX. Perfect. And our second one is, oh, excellent. So this is our Motec plug. Now I can do the cam trigger and the crank trigger. So just a hot little tip, and this is coming from not an expert. When you're doing plugs or anything to do with plugs or any small things like that, always order two, because if you're relying on this one and you stuff it up, and it does happen, shit happens, especially with wiring, always make sure you got a spare one or spare pins. So now we got both wastegates ready to go back together. So you can see the orientations are much different. So both are facing out. We got the nipples coming this way and then this way. The billet clamps that come with the Garrett ones, the Garrett wastegates, are real, like they are the best clamps you can get. They clamp down really well, they hold really well with less force, but they're quite large, and it sort of affects the orientation you have them. So you can't run this clamp this way because it'll run into that one that way. Does that make sense? So say if you can't put this clamp here because there's an exhaust pipe that runs that way, it really doesn't give you much of an option of where you can put them, and I'm having trouble with that. So GCG, James from GCG come up with a really cool idea, and we're actually going to use a combination of the Garrett clamps in conjunction with the Turbo Smart clamps. Now the Turbo Smart clamps are something that we more see, I would see these in the marine world. We use these on exhaust systems, on turbos. So much more simpler idea, but they don't, obviously they're not going to clamp as good as this billet one, but the orientation that we can sort of have opens up a lot further because they're a lot smaller. So we're going to have the best of both worlds here. We've got a little bit of Turbo Smart and a little bit of Garrett, or a lot of Garrett, I should say. So I don't know which way we're going to run it yet. God, I wish the manifold was Cerakote too. That would have been impressive to see. I laved down the exact proportion I needed to. I just dialed it in and did the torquing. Look at that. I've come across something that I thought was going to happen but I was unsure of, but I'm glad I prepared for it. Hence, before your beautiful eyes, this is a solid mount from Dahtone Racing. Anyway, we got a solid engine mount here and I'm glad I have it because I'm going to use it. The problem is there's a lot of crap in the way. To start off with, everything's undone. So if we jack, this is on the corner of the sump, I'm gonna jack it up. Now, hopefully it moves. Something's moving. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, we've got a bit of action. So the new mount comes with a removable stud in the top, and it also comes with a bolt that goes up through the bottom. Now, currently, the Nismo engine mount that's in there is a rubber mount, and it's got a stud at the top and a stud at the bottom, and I can't get it out because we can't lift the motor up off it. Like, it's a fair way to lift. So I'm trying to cut the old one out, which is a shame, cutting a $300 Nismo engine mount. Got both our Wastegates on. The Cerakote looks fantastic. Back one's on, looks great. Front one's on, looks great. I've got the Garrett Turbo clamps to work, which is good. The next thing I've got to do is mount my turbo return, oil return. We got to do that. Really want to get this turbo back on, the guts in it, get all the front done up, get all the motor side of it, get the dump pipe on. We've swapped out that engine mount, so we've now got a solid engine mount in there, which is good. And it's going to be a big day tomorrow. Can you see the engine mount? It's sort of up through there, just a solid black billet block. Getting the new one in was really easy. The way they've designed it to slip in is great. So tops off to those guys who designed that engine mount. I'm hoping it's not gonna feel like a bucket of shit. These things are insane. As I was just saying, I'd feel a whole lot better if the manifold was done in Cerakote, especially to match the billet block, because everything looks fantastic down here except for our HPC black manifold. It doesn't do it for me. These wastegate pipes are pretty sick. I think they're going to sound good here. Hopefully they don't bang under the car too much. Yeah, that's it, looking pretty good. We also have up the front here our WIX engine mount relocation, so that's as good as place as I can get it. The lip's up here. If I hit this lip, like there's going to be people tell me I'm going to take that out. If I take that out, that's the last thing I'm worried about. If I crack this lip...
You'll crack the sump before you hit that.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, unless it sort of dives down into it. But I would be more upset about this Tome lip than that engine filter, trust me. This Tome lip, what is it? It's got a number on it here. It's number 15. So this Tome lip is number 15. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, that's it guys. It's a little bit hard watching all the boys pack up their GTRs for Cootamundra. I really wish I was going, but we can't do everything. Alright guys, cheers. Good luck to all the boys down Cootamundra. Make sure you have fun, and I will see you at GTR Festival.
Like, comment and subscribe.
Like, comment and subscribe, except if you're going to comment dumb shit.